AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. We have an AI that can generate videos in real time, and the video can even be 5 minutes long. This AI can turn a video into a slow-motion 3D scene, which you can move around and view at different angles. HuggingFace announces an open-source robot which you can program. We have a new AI that's really good at adding sound to video. Look at how in sync this is. This is probably the best deblurrer and upscaler I've seen so far. xAI releases the best AI model you can use right now, Grok 4. We also have this AI, which is an agent that can autonomously help you retouch photos and a lot more. So let's jump right in. First up, this AI is really useful. It's called OmniVCus, and this can basically customize videos by changing the subjects or scenes or actions in them. It's a super flexible tool. So for example, you can upload an image of this woman, and then for the prompt you can write the woman in this image is talking to a man on the street, and it would generate a video of that. Notice how it looks exactly like the woman in the photo. Or here's another example. Let's say you have this image. Well, for the prompt, if you put a girl putting on a pair of glasses that turn into the effect of this image, that is indeed what you get. She first puts on a pair of glasses and then it turns into this effect. Or if you input this image, well, with your prompt, you can only specify the boy from the image and get him to pray in a temple. And even though, pray is spelled wrong, this AI is still kind of able to get what the person means and actually generate this boy praying in a temple. Or you can input this image of a woman and then get her to mop the floor in a living room like this. Very nice. You can also use this for micro editing. So for example, let's say you have this photo of a man. Well, you can first remove the blazer of the man and get him to stand in a summer park. And this is indeed what you get. Or let's say you have this photo. Well, you can swap the t-shirt of the boy with a blue shirt and then get him to pray in a temple like this. Or here's a funny one. So let's say this is the input image. Well, you can make the child in image 1 happy doing her homework. And she is like forcefully smiling as she does her homework. But I mean, this is really forced because who the hell is happy doing homework? Or you can even combine two reference images together. So here's a dude running and then here's a church. Well, you can add the man running in front of a church like this. Or if you have these two images, well, you can get them to run together in a park. Now notice that this video generator isn't amazing, so the faces are kind of distorted. Or you can take this man in image 1 and get him to use the laptop in image 2 in a library, and here is what you get. Notice that the man does look the same as image 1 and the laptop does look the same as image 2. You can even kind of control the camera movement of the video by specifying the 3D trajectory of the camera like this. Or here's another example. Let's say you get this girl to do homework at a desk and you input this camera trajectory. Here is your result. It is orbiting around the girl according to this trajectory. In addition, you can even input a depth video like this to use as a reference. So if you input this prompt, notice that it does generate a video of this scene while following the depth of the reference depth video. Or you can also input a mask video like this. And then if you get the boy to play ping pong, here is your resulting video. Or here is the woman in image 1 doing yoga in a living room. Now, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released a GitHub repo. Now, there's no models or code released yet on this GitHub repo or Hugging Face, but it does say the code is coming soon. So hopefully they will release this for us to try out. For now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is really good. It's called ThinkSound, and this can automatically add sound to any silent video. So here are some examples. Notice that the original video has no sound, but after plugging it through this AI, here's what we get. As you can hear, this is completely in sync with when the guy chops the wood, as well as other actions in the scene. So this is super impressive. This isn't just some generic chopping sound, but it's actually synced to all the actions in the clip. Here's another example. Notice again that it's completely in sync with how the baby cries. It also generates a breath when the baby takes a breath, and it only cries when the baby is actually crying in the video. It's as if this is the original sound from the video. That's how good this is. And here's another example. Again, notice that the notes change as the fingers press different keys on this instrument. So again, this AI is really good at actually detecting actions in the video and then adjusting the audio accordingly. Or here's another example. As you can hear, the AI can detect the scene and first generates the train sound from far away and then coming closer to the viewer. Or here's another example. Again, it's really good at actually generating audio that's in sync with all the actions in the video. Here are some more examples. All these clips are silent and generated with VO3. And then after you plug it through this AI, here is the resulting sound. Now, you might be familiar with another free and open source video to audio generator, which is called Audio. This is currently one of the most popular ones. Well, let's see how ThinkSound compares with Audio. So here we have a video of some people playing tennis. First of all, here's the ground truth. Here's what the actual video sounds like. Alright, and then here is ThinkSound. And then finally we have Audio. So you can see ThinkSound is just a bit more in sync compared to Audio. The quality is a bit better. Or here's another example. Here is ThinkSound. What is it doing to the printer? Anyways, here is Audio. Again, as you can hear, ThinkSound just sounds a bit more realistic. Alright, there are a ton of examples on this page, so in the interest of time, I'm not going to go over all of them, but just note that in general, this new method, ThinkSound, is kind of higher quality and more in sync compared with another competitor called Audio. And if you compare ThinkSound with other similar tools across all these different benchmark metrics for video to audio, notice that for almost all of them, ThinkSound is the best performer. The nice thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've actually released a free Hugging Face space for you to try this out online. So let's try this video. Here is the original clip, which is silent. Alright, and then you can add an optional caption here, and then add an optional prompt describing the series of events that happens in the scene. But both of these are optional. Anyways, after clicking submit, here is what we get. Very nice. In addition to the free Hugging Face space, they've also released a GitHub repo, which, if you scroll down a bit, contains all the instructions on how you can download and run this locally on your computer. Anyways, all the links are up here, plus there are a ton of examples on this page, so I'll link to this main page in the description below if you're interested in reading further. Next up, this AI is really interesting. It's called 4D Slow-Mo, and this can take a fast-moving scene and create a really slow-motion 3D video from it at very high quality. So here's what it does. First, this does need to take in multiple videos of a scene from different angles, but you can take these videos asynchronously. In other words, the videos can be taken at slightly different times. And then afterwards, you would plug these asynchronous videos through the AI, and it would automatically glue everything together and turn it into a 3D video, where you can view the scene from different angles. And notice that even though the original movement is quite fast and high action, this AI can achieve frame rates of 100 to 200 frames per second. Or basically, you can stretch this out or slow this down without needing any special high-speed cameras. I mean, I'm sure you can think of many scenarios where this can be applied to slow down the action of certain scenes and allow you to view it at different angles. Here are some more examples comparing this to existing 3D video generators, which I featured on my channel before. Notice that this new one is just way better quality and smoother. Here's another comparison with other methods, and as you can see, it's not even close. This new 4D slow-mo method is just a lot more consistent. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released a GitHub repo, and for now it's pretty empty, but here it does say the code and the data will be released after the paper is accepted. So it looks like they are going to open source this, which is fantastic. Anyways, for now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is actually pretty useful. It's called JarvisArt, and this is a free AI agent that can basically control Adobe Lightroom and help you automatically retouch photos. So here's an example. So notice that on the right side, we are running JarvisArt, which is basically an AI agent that is controlling Adobe Lightroom. So this is trained on coordinating over 200 tools in Adobe Lightroom. So it can autonomously change the brightness, contrast, saturation, white balance, exposure, etc., etc. So you don't have to manually do this yourself. And this would save you a ton of time. All you need to do is prompt this AI like a chatbot, and it would automatically adjust all these settings for you and output the optimized image. Now note that JarvisArt is completely free to use. They're not associated with Adobe, but Adobe Lightroom is paid and closed source. But I mean, you can always find a cracked version online. I did not just tell you that. Anyways, here's another example where you would just upload an image onto this AI agent, and it would automatically plug that into Lightroom and then again adjust the brightness, contrast, the tone, etc., to whatever you specified in your prompt. And note that down here, you can also draw a box around the specific area or subject which you want to edit. And this allows you to micro-edit certain things in the image while keeping the rest of the image the same. So here are some other examples. On the left is the original image, and you can draw a box around the subject like this. And then for the prompt, if you want to achieve a softer and warmer overall atmosphere, additionally focus on the region in the box to highlight the facial features and clothing details of the character, well, the AI agent first kind of analyzes the picture and plans out how to adjust everything. So for example, to warm up everything, it's going to adjust the overall color temperature, and then it's going to play with exposure and contrast. It's also going to brighten it up a touch and add some contrast to make things pop without losing any details in the bright or dark areas. It's also going to tweak the highlights and shadows, etc., etc. And then it moves on to focus on the person in the box. So it needs to first create a mask around them, and it's going to refine the mask to only affect their face and clothing, etc., etc. Basically, it's a ton of steps that would probably take you at least a few minutes if you were to do this manually. But here, the AI kind of thinks through the entire process in seconds and does everything for you in Lightroom, and here on the right is your final result. Very nice. Or here's another example. On the left is the original image. We can draw a box around this dude, and then for the prompt, if you want to make the image evoke a sense of loneliness and introspection with soft lighting, highlighting the solitary figure within the box, here is the entire thinking process of the AI agent, but in the end, what you get is the image on the right. Notice that it does look a bit better. The color balance is more correct, and it does kind of evoke a sense of loneliness and introspection. Or here's another example. Here for the prompt, if you put adjust the colors to give a slightly warmer tone, almost like a film look, while also subtly desaturating it, that is kind of what you get. Like, the end result does have a retro film look. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released a GitHub repo, and if you scroll down a bit, it looks like they have released the inference code. So here are all the instructions on how you can potentially download and run this locally on your computer. But again, note that this does also require you to have Adobe Lightroom for this to work. Note that here they've also released a free Hugging Face space for you to try this out. So I'm going to upload an image, and then here, for example, let's write something like give this a Polaroid film look, and then let's press generate. Now, note that again, this does require Adobe Lightroom, so this isn't actually going to edit the photo for you in this Hugging Face space. What this does is it's still going to use this agent to analyze the photo and then think through what it should do in Adobe Lightroom. So you can see its thinking process over here, just like a regular deep thinking model, and then afterwards it's going to give you all the steps that need to be applied in Lightroom. And in addition to this, it also gives you a Lightroom preset template, which you can download and then just import to Adobe Lightroom, which would apply all the changes for you. So for example, if we have something like this and we want to give it a vibrant, uplifting mood with slightly sharper details, well, here is the configuration of the Adobe preset, and you can download this template and import it to Lightroom to process the image. And here is what you would get. Anyways, all the links are up here, so if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Speaking of AI tools, you've got to check out Emergent, the sponsor of this video. This is an agentic vibe coding platform that autonomously helps you create pretty much anything you imagine. All you need to do is prompt it. So for example, let's get it to build a habit tracking app. As you can see, this is super thorough. So it's asking me like, are there any specific features I want? Do I have any preference for visual style? After building the app, you can see it's also testing it to make sure everything is running smoothly. And here is what we get. So let's click on this. And indeed, this button works, plus it adds it over here. Plus you can add a new habit like this. Very nice. Or let's try to build a meditation app where we can watch YouTube meditation videos and track our progress. And here is what we get. Look at how beautiful this is. Everything is very interactive and it works. Or we could build an interactive piano app, which can also display sheet music and help us practice. And here is what we get. Very nice. Or here's another complex example. Let's make an app where we can upload wireframes and it would automatically analyze the user journey. And here's what we get. Let's upload a wireframe, and as you can see, it's analyzing the user journey and trying to detect all the issues with this wireframe. As you can see, even if you're not technical, Emergent just autonomously handles everything for you, including the backend and the frontend, allowing you to bring any idea into reality. Try it for free today via the link in the description below. In other news, Perplexity, which is one of the most popular AI search engines out there, launched their own AI browser, which is called Comet. This is basically an internet browser with a built-in assistant capable of agentic tasks like scheduling meetings or sending emails and automating workflows. So here are some examples of Comet in action. As you can see, it's basically an AI agent that lives on your internet browser. So you can pull it up and ask it questions or ask it to do something on whatever page you're on right now. So for example, let's say you are on Google Maps. Well, you can instruct it to do something like this, and it will actually autonomously apply these actions on Google Maps. Or let's say you're on Reddit. Well, again, you can just pull up this agent and then get it to summarize this page for you. Or let's say you're on Slack and you don't want to read everything that your annoying colleagues have written on this thread. Well, you can just get the AI to summarize the thread like this. Now here it says beginning today, Comet is available to max subscribers. And then invite-only access will roll out slowly to our waitlist over the summer. New users will also receive a limited number of invites to share. So if you're interested in trying this out, you can join the waitlist over here. The link is at the bottom of this page here, which I'll link to in the description below. Next up, this AI is really useful. It's called OmniPart, and this can create 3D objects with separate meaningful parts that can be edited and controlled. Most current AI tools for generating 3D models just create one 3D model with no distinct parts which you can edit. Well, this AI solves this problem. So first, it would take an image as input. So let's say you use this image of a robotic dog. What it does is it first kind of plans out roughly which parts it should segment. And it does this by drawing these outlines or bounding boxes to represent the separate parts. You can also guide this process further to really control the parts that you want to segment. And then afterwards, once this layout is planned, it then starts to create a detailed 3D shape for each part, like this. And then let me drag this explode slider so you can see that each of these parts can be separated, like this. Or here's another example. Let's say I upload this image of a robot. First, it plans out which sections to segment, and then for each section, it refines it further into something like this. And afterwards, we can explode this, and here is what we get. Very nice. Or here's another example of a race car, and here's the outline, and here is the final segmented 3D model. And if you explode it, it would look something like this. Now, like I said before, you can also determine how to segment the model using masks. So this is called mask-guided generation. For example, over here, we have the same image of this crossbow, but you can input a mask image like this, which kind of denotes how to segment the object. So if we use a mask image like this, as you can see, it'll segment the object accordingly, like this. However, if you upload a different mask image, let's say this one, here is what you get. Or here's another example. Let's say you have this robot. Well, you can choose to segment this into much smaller sections, like the antenna and the eyes and the ears, etc., like this. Or you can do a much rougher segmentation like this. So let's look at this one first. That is indeed how it segments this object. Or instead, if you use this mask, here is what you get. So this gives you ultimate control on the granularity and how you want to segment the parts of a 3D object. Anyways, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they have released a free Hugging Face space for you to try this out online. So here's where you would upload an image. Let's try something like this. So I'm going to press segment image, and it's going to give me all these segments. And then afterwards, you can choose which segments to merge together. So for example, here it's automatically detecting that we should merge 0 and 5 together, which is basically going to merge 0 and 5 over here. So it's going to give us one complete segment for the torso. So sure, why not? I'm going to accept whatever it's suggested over here and then click apply merge. Alright, so after applying the merge, notice that we've turned it from something like this with a ton of segments to something like this, where it kind of logically merges related parts together. And then afterwards, let's click Generate 3D Model. And here is what we get. So here's the 3D model with the combined parts. Here are all the parts separated. Plus it even gives you a 3D Gaussian of the model like this, and the same thing but with all the parts separated. And you can download each one of these by clicking on this button over here. And note that you can just download and clone a Hugging Face space to use locally on your computer. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. In humanoid robot news, we have a new humanoid robot demo. And this one is called Agibot X2N. The cool thing is, it can seamlessly switch between walking on legs to rolling on these integrated foot wheels. This dual mode locomotion allows it to effectively travel across a wide range of environments. For example, if the surface is smooth, it can just use these wheels to roll really fast. And then for more challenging terrains like stairs or uneven ground, it can then switch to walking with feet. Plus, as you can see here, it's quite efficient at handling cargo. So it can carry loads of up to 12 pounds while maintaining balance and stability. So you can see how this could potentially be useful for automating tasks in warehouses and logistics. Now, interestingly, the company behind Agibot X2N is called Ziyuan, and they are based in Shanghai, and interestingly, the founder behind this company was originally from Huawei. He's considered to be quite a genius in robotics and AI. This company is quite recent and they only started it a few years ago, but they've already built something like this, which is super impressive. In addition, HuggingFace, which is one of the biggest platforms for open source AI tools, just announced an open source desktop robot called Reachy Mini. Now this comes in two versions, a wireless version which has a built-in Raspberry Pi 5 and is fully autonomous, and this goes for around $450. And then we have Reachy Mini Lite, which is wired, and it requires a connection to a computer, and this goes for around $300. So both of these are quite affordable. This is quite a tiny robot which you can just put on your desk. Now the cool thing is this is a programmable robot which can see and move its head and antennas and talk. Now HuggingFace is known to be the platform for open source AI, and they've also open sourced the framework behind how you can program this robot. So how this works is using Python, you can program this robot to do things like recognize faces, or follow hand movements, or dance, or act as a smart companion or chatbot, just by linking it to open source AI tools. The best thing is this connects directly to HuggingFace's platform, which gives you access to almost 2 million open source AI models ranging from face recognition to music generation to large language models, which you can chat with. Plus, this robot comes pre-built with over 15 of these AI demos. Now that being said, it doesn't mean you can use all these 2 million models out there on HuggingFace, because most of them require a lot of VRAM, which the Raspberry Pi 5 might not have. So this can only run like very basic and small AI models. But nevertheless, this is still pretty fun to play with, and like I said, everything is open source, including the hardware and the software. So it could be a pretty fun way to learn how to program a robot with AI. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, xAI finally releases Grok 4, and I have to say this is so far the best and smartest and most capable AI model you can use right now. Now this is a multimodal model, so it can currently handle both text and images. Apparently they're also working on a video generation model, which is expected to come out in October, which is pretty exciting. Now Grok 4 supports a context window of 256k tokens, so it's not as large as Gemini 2.5 Pro, which has a 1 million token context window, but 256k is still enough for most tasks. This is basically how much information you can fit into your prompt at once. And like most state-of-the-art models out there, Grok 4 excels at advanced reasoning, including solving multi-step logic problems and mathematical proofs and other problems in science, coding, and STEM-related subjects. Now there are several variants of Grok 4, depending on what you want to use it for. The most performant version is called Grok 4 Heavy. This is essentially a team of multiple AI agents working together to help you solve complex tasks. Now here are some of their reported benchmarks, and then we're also going to look at some other benchmarks and leaderboards from independent evaluators so you can get an objective sense on how good this is. So for GPQA, these are like graduate level research questions. As you can see, Grok 4 outperforms Claude 4 Opus, which is like the most performant version from Anthropic, and also Gemini 2.5 Pro and OpenAI's O3. Similarly, for AIME, which is a benchmark for competitive math, Grok 4 Heavy got a friggin' 100%. This is definitely a super capable model in terms of math. Here's another notable benchmark called Humanities Last Exam. Now this name is absolutely awful. It doesn't mean that when AI scores 100% that we are screwed. This is basically a test on how much obscure knowledge the AI model knows. So it consists of a ton of really tricky and really specialized questions from obscure scientific domains like this. Like most people don't need to know this. But as you can see, Grok 4 Heavy scored a whopping 44.4%. This is a huge margin compared to the previous leading models, Gemini 2.5 Pro and O3. So this shows you that Grok 4 is also really knowledgeable. Here's an even crazier achievement. So Grok 4 by far scores the highest on this ArcAGI benchmark. So the y-axis is the score and the x-axis is the cost. Notice the huge gap between Grok 4 and the next best model. It's not even close. So at least for version 1 of the ArcAGI benchmark, it scored a whopping 66.6%. And this is really impressive because ArcAGI basically evaluates how well an AI can solve new problems using minimal prior information. each task is like a visual puzzle where it's only given a few examples, and it needs to figure out the underlying pattern. So for example, here is one question and answer pair. So the answer is you just fill in these blocks here to form a complete square. And then here's the second question answer pair. Again, you just fill in these areas to complete the squares. And then next, the AI model would be given this, and then it needs to try to solve it. Now, for us humans, it's pretty easy to solve most of these questions, but it's actually quite hard for traditional AI models to solve these. This is not part of its training data. So this ArcAGI benchmark is kind of like testing an AI's ability to learn new things by giving it new examples it has never seen before. And as you can see, Grok 4 is all the way up here, way ahead of the other state-of-the-art models. So this is very impressive. Alright, so those were some of their reported benchmarks. Let's also look at some independent leaderboards. So here is one by Artificial Analysis, which ranks the top AI models out there. And as you can see, Grok 4 is indeed in #1 place, with an intelligence index of 73. Now, even with such an intelligent model, the price is actually relatively affordable, especially if you compare this to Claude 4 Opus Thinking, which isn't even that good, but it's like 5 times more expensive. And then here's another leaderboard called LM Arena, where users can blind test different AI models. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like they've added Grok 4 over here yet. So those are just some leaderboards and benchmarks. Hopefully this gives you a sense of how good Grok 4 is. This is definitely state of the art. Now, this is closed source and this is not free. So currently you do need to pay in order to access Grok 4. It's going to be $30 per month to access the basic version of Grok 4. And if you want Grok 4 Heavy, which is designed for more complex tasks, it's basically a team of agents working together, this requires $300 per month. Now, for most of us, we probably don't need to use Grok 4 Heavy, but if you're in some really specialized field like medical research, then this intelligence could be well worth $300 per month. Anyways, if you've been following my channel, you'll know that I take my time to thoroughly test the hell out of AI models before publishing a full video on it. So I'm actually spending the past few days really testing out Grok 4 to show you all the cool things it can do. I'll probably release a full video sometime early next week, so stay tuned for that. Next up, this AI is very powerful. It's called StreamDiT, and this can generate videos in real time. So here are some examples. All this needs is a text prompt. So let's say you want a corgi with sunglasses to walk on a beach. Here is what you get. Now notice that these videos are a minute long, and this is a 4 billion parameter video model that can generate 16 frames per second in real time on a single H100 GPU, and the resolution is 512p. Or here's another example. Here's a dude reading a book sitting on a cloud in the sky. And again, this is a minute-long video that was completely generated in real time on just a single H100 GPU. Do note that the H100 has like 80 gigabytes of VRAM, which is still a lot compared to what consumers have. Like, you can definitely not run this in real time with just a 4090 or a 5090, but it's still pretty impressive that it was able to generate a minute-long video in real time on just the H100. Here's another example. Now, with a higher action scene like this, you can see a lot more artifacts and flaws and noise with the generation. This is not consistent at all, and the quality is pretty low. But keep in mind that the video is at 512p resolution. Or instead of a 1 minute long video, it can even generate a video that's 5 minutes long. But as you can see, as it generates more and more of the video, you do get more and more errors. Now, there's even more you can do with this. You can inject another prompt as the video is generating to modify the video. So for example, here at the start, if the prompt is a boy riding his bike in a garden in spring, well, you can then change the scene into summer, and then into fall, and finally into winter. And indeed, that is what it generates. Very cool. Or here's another example where the initial prompt is a cat walking in a garden, but if you prompt it with a tiger, it indeed kind of seamlessly changes the cat into a tiger midway through the scene. Or here, if the initial prompt is a man walking in a desert and you change him to walk in a cyberpunk city, it does kind of add a cyberpunk city to the scene like this. Or here's another example where First, we have a calm lake and cloudy sky in daylight, and then we turn it into nighttime with a glowing moon, and then we have fireworks exploding over a lake. And the transition is pretty seamless. Now, the real-time videos that I showed you were generated with the StreamDiT 4 billion parameter version. However, they also have a 30 billion parameter version, which is not in real time, but because this is a larger model, it can generate higher quality videos. So here are some sample generations from this 30 billion parameter version. As you can see, the quality is slightly higher than the real-time version, but I would say it's still not as good as some of the proprietary models out there like Hailuo and Kling and VO3. Now, really quickly, here's the architecture behind it. So first, it features this moving buffer with flow matching component, which is basically the magic behind real-time streaming. So think of the video as a stream of frames. It basically uses this moving buffer like a sliding window that holds a few frames at a time. And this allows it to focus on generating only a small part of the video while remembering what came before that. And it uses a technique called flow matching to ensure the transition from one frame to the next is smooth. It also has this window attention component, which focuses on only nearby frames instead of attending to the whole video at once. And using this method, it can save a lot of compute and be able to generate videos in real time. Unfortunately, if you scroll up to the top of the page, it looks like they haven't released anything yet besides a technical report. Note that this is from Meta, which hasn't even released their video generator, which they announced months ago, which is pretty lame. So don't expect them to release this either. Meta is known to not release anything besides their Llama models, which kind of suck. But anyways, if you're interested in reading further and learning how this real-time generator works, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, this AI is really good at deblurring and upscaling images. It's called 4K Agent, and let me show you a few examples of how insane this is. So here's before, this is super blurry and noisy, and here is the after. Look how much cleaner and detailed this is. Or here's another example. Look at how blurry and grainy this is, but after plugging it through this AI, look at that. Super sharp and detailed. Or here's another example. Here's the before, and here's the after. Or here's another one. Here's the before and here's the after. Although one minor thing I don't like about it is it kind of has a plasticky pastel feel to this. It doesn't look like 100% realistic. Here's a shot with a ton of motion blur, but after plugging it through this, here is what we get. Here's a really cool use case. You can even use this to deblur and upscale satellite imagery. So here's the before and here's the after. How insane is that? Or here's another example. Here's the before and here's the after. Here's a microscopic image. Here's the before and here's the after. And then here's an X-ray, here's the before and here's the after. Now, if you scroll up to the top, they have released a GitHub repo, but currently there's no code or models released yet. Here it does say the code is coming soon, so hopefully they'll stick to their word and actually release this. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.